Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you listen to this latest episode of Treaty Talk. It's episode 222 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Another busy episode to get through. We have a big interview with the Limerick Ladies Senior Football Manager, Graham Shine, coming up straight away. We obviously have a lot of football between both calls to discuss. We've hurling, we've colleges, and a lot more to get through. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kerry. Kerry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
As I said from the start there, Matt, we do have a special guest again this morning. It's the Limerick Ladies Senior Football Manager, Graham Shine. Graham, how are you keeping?
Hi lads, how are you keeping?
Good morning, Graham. How are you?
Morning, Matt. How are you?
It's good to have you on ahead of your big trip this weekend. I suppose looking to secure a league semi-final berth, but you're in Derry against Derry. You know what you have to do. You came close against Leitrim thus far, but I suppose what's the mood like in the camp ahead of I suppose a unique trip up to Derry?
Oh yeah, look, the mood is good. Look, we've had a great start. You know, the two wins on the road and then the draw against Leitrim. Look, you know yourselves, we were half-time, we were down by 10 points and to come back and to draw it and kind of be winning it towards the end. Look, the girls, look, we came out of there a bit disappointed we didn't win it. We're also grateful that we got the draw. That gives us the opportunity now to go to Derry and get the points on the road and get into another National League semi-final, please God.
Yeah, what's the mood like after a game like that you were down by so much but you actually got ahead late on? There was probably a small bit of disappointment there at the same time, which is good for a team that are down by 10 points to be disappointed with the result in the end.
I know, look, inside I was delighted. You know, I was jumping around inside, to be honest, because when you're 10 points down against an intermediate team and we kind of struggle with them, with their physicality and stuff at the start. They're letting the long ball, and there was a strong wind, and we just kind of struggled. And at half time, look, we just kind of said to the girls, look, just show a bit of character now and what we have and what we're building in the group, and just play our football and play what we do with training and just stick to that, and just keep working hard, and hopefully we'll get a bit of luck and get a few scores and get it back. And gee, when we brought it back to 4 points and they went up and got that goal, I kind of sunk a bit. Then I said, Jim Mac, we just got him and we let him back into the game, but we introduced Iriston and a few of the girls, and look from 1 to 15 really up to the gear, and we got the few scores at the vital time. And as I say, going into injury time, we were 2 points up, which was unbelievable. They got a couple of frees, then maybe soft frees in my eyes, but they got a couple of frees and equalised it. But after all, after the game, look, the morale was great in the camp. No loss again, so. As I said, everyone's looking forward now to Sunday. Have to get the points on the road Sunday, or it's probably all in vain. But look, we're really focused for Sunday, and I'm sure we'll pick up the points.
You mentioned morale there. There just does seem to be, you know, a good vibe, I suppose, in the camp. Is there anything you can put that down to? Or?
I just think from day one, when we got in the group, we brought in probably 14 or 15 different players from last year. A lot of the players are really young, excited to be playing for Limerick, and it just gives that dynamic that everyone has to fight for places now, which is really important in a group that we've kind of covered now for every position in the field, which is great. So it just brought a different spirit and it kind of lifted it, and girls are really buying into what we're at, and it's kind of working out so far. So. Again, look, a winning mentality, it does give morale in the camp, you know, and once you keep being successful, you'll keep at that, you know. It's the day that you lose a few in a row, that then we have to change things and look at things.
It must be brilliant for you to be able to bring in a share of players and they fit in so seamlessly, because it can go the other way just as easy, that you could bring in players and they mightn't settle and there could be, a bad vibe around the training ground. So you must be happy in that regard.
Oh, very happy, Jack, because as I say, look, last year, first year when I came on board with the management, so we didn't have a chance to look at the players, playing with our clubs, and kind of last year we went to all the games, we didn't miss a game, and we were looking at players that would fit into our system, and that would we knew that would straight away within a couple of sessions that they'd get into that system that we play. So that was kind of the way it was picked, and the girls that came in, they just fitted in straight away. Everyone got on really well. Yeah, look, I know everyone probably says, but it is a happy camp at the moment, and we were training now last night. Morale is good. Very good session last night. These girls just want to keep improving. Every session we want to improve. So it's kind of player-led as well. They can take onus of that on the pitch when they're training, and we just provide the goods to them and they do the rest.
Yeah, I suppose you can see it in your performances, and you kind of mentioned it briefly, but you have played two intermediate teams and obviously beat Wicklow and drew at Leitrim. You could have beat them. That I know the league is the goal now, but it must give you confidence that when it comes to championship, that you've played teams in a higher grade and beat them, or else drew with them and could have beat them, Yeah,
it is great. Look, and I still think we're only at the tip of it, really, because there's so much talent in the group. We're still probably not as efficient in front of goals as we like. At the moment, we're really good defensively, but in front of goals, we need to work a little bit harder and get the efficiency rate up higher. So I think, look, better this group will get throughout the year. As I say, it's really player-led at the moment. They're driving it on. We could see that there the last day when you're 10 points down. That wasn't anything I said at half time. That was them. They took that on themselves. And that's the way it has been now since last November, December. It's player-led and they're driving it on. And please God, you get over the line and get into semi-final and just one game at a time. And we probably were in the same situation last year. We lost no game last year. Got to semi-final, won it, got to final, lost. And to be honest, you got nothing for it, And like this year, we have to be really focused in on every game. And we have to get over the line this year, please God, and get them up to Division 3.
Okay, and I suppose, if you go to Owenbeg this weekend, this Sunday, and you don't get the win, it won't be for nothing, but it kind of will be that you could miss out in a semi-final. So I suppose it is important to keep it game to game, even though you are, flying at the moment. Yeah,
you have to, Jack, because down at this level, in Division 4, I don't see much between the teams. Maybe Kilkenny, they're new into it, and it'll take them a couple of years. But every other team seems to be nipping tuck with it. So, if you go up to Derry, we don't know what they'll produce up there or what they have, and we just really focus in. As I said, last 2 weeks preparation has been really good. We've really focused in on ourselves. We looked at Derry maybe defensively a small bit, and they're attacking stuff, but we really focused in on ourselves. And the girls, I don't think the girls will slip up the weekend. If we're to be beat, it'll be Derry that'll be beating us, not ourselves.
Lovely. Matt, I'll throw it over to you.
Graham, you just touched on it there. Just looking at the composition of your team, I think over the 3 games to date, that looking particularly at your defence, I think you have only named one change over the 3 games. That's despite the fact that Alva Quaid isn't available. Is she available or is she coming back? But that would seem to suggest that you're happy with your defence. But you made as many as 5 changes in the attack from one game to the next, I think from the Kilkenny to the Wicklow game, which would suggest that the jury is still out as to get the right format up front.
Yeah, correct. Look, with defensively, last year, Matt, after the All-Ireland semi-final, we let in 7 goals, and the All-Ireland semi-final, that was a big thing last year with us, what happened that day. And we sat down a lot and we analysed it, and we just had to come up with something that didn't happen again. So look, we set out our stall to set up that defensive structure that we use. Picked the best 6 that fitted into it straight away. But if you really analyse us, we have been probably sprinkling another 4 or 5 or 6 players into that during each game. So we have different players coming into different positions in the defence throughout the game. maybe not starting, but there's a lot of girls getting a lot of experience in that system in the last 3 games, and we'll get it again on Sunday. For your other question, the forward line, look, you're always trying to improve in the forwards, you know, and look, forwards relish in scoring, and, you know, and maybe sometimes they mightn't get in this game. We try someone else in the next game, and that's what the league is for. We promised every girl at the start that the league is for getting game time into them. For a championship, if they're sprung, then they know what they're doing. And the big thing is for girls to get experience in the system. There's girls there that have a more Limerick jersey at adult level before, get that jersey on them, and just see how they take to it and how they feel wearing it. And that's what we're trying to do in the league. And I think we've used probably every player now. I think the 31 or 2 players have got game time.
Yeah, Jack, Graham, I suppose the league in itself is a means to an end, i.e. the championship. But how near your championship team, or how near your best team are you at present?
At the moment, you don't know. It goes from, look, you get surprised every week, you know. There's girls there at the moment now that are biting at the bit to start. And look, as I say to you, it's such a competitive group this year. We probably have 36 in the panel, and we've 4 or 5 out injured at the moment. They're ready to come back, and we probably cover for every place. So picking the team is very hard at the moment. Come championship, it could completely change. We have a semi-final, please God, if we get over the line coming up, and it's just week by week, and we go on, players are training. If put up your hand at train and play well, you'll start the week after, you know, and that's kind of what we're looking at the moment. And as I say, I'm not even thinking down the road of that now. It's game by game, and see can we get out to the level 4, Division 4.
Graham, speaking to you a number of times, going around to matches last year, and speaking to you and since the start of this campaign, you've seemed to set Division 3 football as a holy grail. Is it even more important now that you have almost half of your panel new and young players?
Yeah, look, one of the things I kind of don't like about it, Matt, is that I suppose this split in 2, split where the only division in the league that are split in 2. Division 4 is the only teams playing this weekend. Like I'd rather if we were like in above level Division 3 and playing your 7 or 8 games and go straight to a final and concentrate in on the championship after that. So I just think, like, I think for Limerick, we need to get up to a higher level, play the teams up higher. We're well capable. Look, with the teams we're playing this year in championship and stuff, we Division 3 last year, awfully. And so, look, I think we're well able, and I think we need to progress. I think we need to get up a level, Division 3, higher standard of football probably, and get more games. More structure to the games. You know, there's too much gaps in Division 4. There's gaps of 2 weeks, gaps of 3 weeks. We need more structure to that and get more, get that 7 or 8 games within a space of maybe 9 weeks, 10 weeks, like all the other divisions are doing, and straight to a final. I think that's better for Limerick going forward. And like, you go up to Division 3, you can stay up, and as you're building, you can go up, hopefully go up another division. I do really think, I think it would suit Limerick great to be up in Division 3 with the structure that they have compared to the structure we have at Division 4.
Jack touched on it there, but do the games against Wicklow and Leitrim, now Wicklow were beaten in the All-Ireland Intermediate quarter-final last year, and Leitrim were in they didn't make the knockout stages of the All-Ireland series. But the type of performance against those 2 counties, has it even strengthened your resolve and convinced you more that Division 3 is the place to be?
Yeah, I think so, Matt. Look, and sure, that's why we're in it, you know. We're in it to get promoted, you know, and like, we don't want to be staying in Division 4. You're just playing every year then for nothing. Like, we start out in the year, we have 2 goals, you know. The first goal is get out of Division 3, get out of Division 4, up to Division 3. And as I said, you look, we're well capable. And some days, like last year against Offaly there, you know, we probably played 50 minutes of good football. We were leading for most of it, and for 15 minutes we let in 3 goals. And that's why that 15 minutes really cost us last year. So look, there's a big focusing on the girls, a big focusing on the management. try win every game, get ourselves into that position of a semi-final, and look, after that, then you kind of take a game by game. It's a 50-50, and please God, you'll get over the line. But because I say Derry is the next thing, you have to beat them, or you won't probably have a chance of playing in a semi-final. So look, my answer would be that definitely I think we need to get up to divisions. We have the quality, we have the talent, we have everything in place. The structure is in place, county board, everything now is in place. Everyone's been looked after, and I just think for us as a group, if we're going forward together, I would love to play at a higher level.
I'll cut across there, Matt, if you don't mind. Or I just have one question.
Just one last question, Jack. One last question. Graham, turning to Derry, what is the state of play regarding injuries? I know Carol Bateman is going to be out for a while.
Yeah, so at the moment we have Grania McKenna, who is an injury. Probably back in maybe next 6 weeks. Maybe we're just going working with physio and stuff like that, and a medical team in Dublin. Just so maybe next 6 weeks. And Charlotte Walsh broke her wrist in a challenge game. She's probably back in the next. She's back running and stuff now, and it's just a bit of rehabilitation on the wrist. So please God, she's back in 2 weeks' time maybe. Roisin Breedy's back, but not ready for contact. Alva Quaid was back, picked up a soft tissue injury in her foot last Sunday, so she's out for Derry. That's kind of it at the moment, I'd say, with the injuries. They're all there. They're all training. They're either doing gym or they're doing pitch at the moment, being monitored. And there's really Grania McKenna would only be really the long-term injury, and that would probably push out to 6 or 8 weeks.
Thanks, Graham.
No problem at all.
Graham, sorry to cut across there, Matt, a minute ago. Ladies football in general seems to be in a brilliant place, Graham. It's marketed really well. There seems to be a great buzz around it. It must be, enjoyable to be involved at this time.
It's great, Jack. Like I got first involved in 2015, and it's light years away from that. Even at the moment, the exposure the Limerick ladies are getting at the moment. We have a new PRO there, Linda. She is constantly has us publicised in social media, the likes of yourselves, the radio stations, and it's all publicity for the girls, and it's bringing it to higher level. The TG Car has brought it to another level, little sponsorship. So like the whole thing is on and up, and probably the likes of the Mead ladies has brought it to another level. A team that can come from junior to intermediate to senior, Division 3 to 2 to 1 and win it. Everything, it's very positive at the moment. I think a lot of girls really want to play for their county. As I say, the big thing is they're being looked after, that they're treated right and they get what they deserve to get. They train really hard, probably do 4 team sessions a week and 1 or 2 individual practices a week. So they train really hard, plus they hold down jobs, they study. Some of them have families. So, they look, they get what they're getting now, what they're putting into, and it can get a bit better. Probably, pitches and can still be a bit hard to get, but we're lucky at the moment. We've secured pitches. So, overall, Jack, it's very positive, and I think it's going to get bigger. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the world, so it's going to get bigger. Thanks be to God.
Yeah, it's great to see. Before we go, obviously, as a Kerry native, it's probably a hard question, but what is the relationship to football in Kerry between ladies and men? I can see the pitch behind you there on the screen. Is it as soon as you're born in the kingdom, you're a footballer thrown into your hand and away you go?
It is, and I suppose when I went to Limerick first, you would have the hurling is probably number 1, and then you have the Camogie and the football, where like football up until recently is really number 1 in Kerry. My house would be just football mad, if we're not with Limerick, we're down watching Kerry or we're at club games, and you go down to town, you're talking about football. You go to the pub, you talk about football. It's just everything in our lives is football down here, and like you follow the county team, you follow your club team, we have divisional teams we follow. Just from you're a kid, you're given a ball and you're down the local field, and we're in Limerick. I see a lot of guys walking around the street with Hurleys, We wouldn't see that much where I'm from, but in North Kerry now it's getting stronger. Kerry Hurlers are getting stronger, so they have a good following now. I go to some of their matches, and they have a good crowd following them now as well. But yeah, look, the ladies football side of things, I've managed to Kerry Ladies Football and the Limerick Ladies have just put in the same amount of work, the same passion, and as I say, this bunch of players really want to play for Limerick. It's oozing out of them, and I think they showed that to everyone in Rathkeale 2 weeks ago when they came back from that 10-point deficit. They really show they really want to play for Limerick, and it really matters. It really means a lot to them. And as I said in an interview there lately, I'm loving it down here, and I'm loving the drive and the passion off of the girls. You get a great energy off them every night at training. Every night you leave training, you leave with a buzz, and you feel that they learn that bit more every night. So, as I say, yeah, I think it's flying at the moment. I think Limerick Ladies, especially where I'm involved at the moment, it is up and up and up. And I think every year it'll get stronger. There's lovely under 14, under 16s. I watched the minors. They're lately a very good footballing team. Drew at Waterford, and I think, yeah, everything is really positive.
Well, hopefully that positivity can continue this week. Thanks a million for your time there. Again, I told you 10 or 15 minutes. We've barely gone double that. But the best of luck this Sunday in Owenbeg at 1 o'clock. A draw or a win is good enough for you, Graham. So please, God, you can get the result. And again, a huge thank you to you for coming on. And I'm sure Matt echoes that sentiment. So the best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, Graham.
Just before I go, lads, thanks a million as well for the exposure you're giving us. It's great there every week to turn on into Facebook there and see a little slot there between yourself and Matt, Jack, about the ladies. It's much appreciated by the management and the team. And thanks again, and we really appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, that'll definitely continue, and please, God, you'll continue in your winning ways. Graham, we'll talk to you very soon. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Graham.
Sorry, I cut him off a bit early there, Matt, but brilliant as always to get an insight from, an inter-county manager there from Graham.
Graham is always so forthright, and it's a pleasure to chat with him,
Yeah, and as I said, the Limerick Ladies Footballers are in Derry this Sunday at 1 o'clock in Owenbeg. The way things stand, they could afford to lose and go through, depending on results elsewhere, but a draw is definitely going to be good enough for them. And the way they're playing, Matt, it'd be hard to back against Limerick getting the draw or getting the win, I suppose, in Owenbeg this Sunday. But we'll continue with ladies football. But unfortunately, yesterday for John the Baptist Community School, they just beaten by Loreto Clonmel in the Munster Ladies Senior Final. We had spoken last week with Brian Egan and Caoimhe McNamara ahead of the game, and confidence was high. But you were in Sean Tracy Park yesterday, and I suppose just didn't get going, and a strong start from Tipperary's side, and they held on then.
Yeah, very strong start by Loreto Clonmel, Jack. At half time, it was 3-5 to no score. I think really the final score actually distorts the performance that John the Baptist put up, because with the very last kick of the first half, Loreto got a goal, and had they just held out for that extra minute, it would have only have been 2-5, and couple of that with 63rd or 64th minute getting a penalty. Loreto got a penalty which was converted. At that stage there was obviously tired minds and tired bodies around the place, but Loreto had a lady at midfield, Breed McMaw, who has 2 full years now almost of playing senior with Waterford under her belt, and was a Munster Senior Club medal winner with Ballymacabre in last December. So she really dictated the terms of engagement for the most part. Anya Cleary got a fantastic goal after half-time. It was unquestionably, in my view, the score of the match, one for the ages. And they followed it up quickly with a goal from Maybeen Murphy. They got 2 goals in 4 minutes. And that sort of brought them back within it. It more than took the bare look off the scoreboard. Maybe for 10 minutes solid, Jack, they penned Loreto back, and they played the type of football in that period that Loretta had been playing in the first half and had been playing up till then. Good running off the ball, good offloads, carrying the ball, and that sort of thing. But sort of Loretta regrouped again, and now John the Baptist came with a late flurry of scores. They got 3 points in as many minutes, but really, they left themselves too much to do in the first half, Jack.
Yeah, it's just a pity. After they were beaten in the first round, and they was it 4 games back to back, but just a bridge too far in the final. But obviously, there's a lot of players for the future in that team. A lot of players we're seeing with the Limerick minor squad, so it won't be the end of it.
Yeah, well, there's 7 of them playing, but there's 7 of them playing with the Limerick minor squad. I would say the team captain and Cueva McNamara, who was with us last week, who it certainly wasn't her fault that they were beaten because she put in a big shift and led from the front. But Breed McMahon, in my opinion, was essentially the difference. Like in the first half, John the Baptist were trying to do the right thing, but it just didn't come off. The final pass didn't come off the ball, didn't go to hand at times when it should have been. Look, it was one of those occasions when kind of ducks would drown in you. Anything that was to go wrong went wrong, but full credit to John the Baptist, full credit to the spirit that they showed, Jack. The heads never went down, and I think they did their coaches Brian Egan and Quaffy and Fahy and their school proud.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I'm sure there'll be a share of them on the radar of Graham Shine going forward into the senior team in a couple of years. Just before I finish with ladies football, Toos Midwest are into the Donaghy Cup final, which is, I think it's the second tier of ladies football in colleges. I know Iris Kennelly and Aoife Corbett, there's probably more involved, but I just saw there on Twitter, and Graham was saying it off air. So the best of luck to them in the Donaghy Cup final. They won the Langan last year, so they got promoted and they're back in the final. But on to men's football, Matt, and it was a sobering weekend last Sunday against Cork in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. 6-18 to 12 points. Tells its own story. I was in Salt Hill, so I was only listening to the game, but the writing was on the wall early on. I think Ian Maguire got the first goal, and they finished up with 6 overall and 4 losses for Limerick. Time is really running out. They'll have Meath this Sunday in Gaelic Crowns, and they'll have to kickstart the survival bid there. But I suppose after pushing Cork for most of the game last year in the qualifiers, you were hoping the McGrath Cup final was a blip, a blow-up performance, but Cork have moved streaks ahead of Limerick. There was hopes that Limerick would cement themselves as the second team in Munster this year, but it just hasn't got going in the league so far. And as I said, it was a sobering one in the park last Sunday.
As you know, Jack, from the outset, of this league, that I fancied Cork as an outside chance to make the final and make promotion, and it's still possible for them, but they need a whole myriad of possible miracle results at this stage. What's really haunting Cork at the moment, of course, is the first round defeat to Meath, which certainly wasn't on the script. But I think Cork are a much improved side. But having said that, the margin of victory, Jack, certainly has sent the alarm bells ringing. Limerick are heading into a very, very difficult phase of the current league at the moment. Now they have 3 games left, and the only consolation, if there is consolation at this stage, is that it is against the 3 teams are immediately around them at this stage almost. Meath, Kildare, and Clare in the final round in Ennis, and we never seemed to fear going to Clare, Jack. No. So, but Meath, Meath in the Gaelic grounds is like the prize for Meath is huge, Jack. Because they can put any fears of relegation almost to bed if they get a third win on Sunday. And of course, we're talking about Limerick, and one of the games that Limerick would have targeted to win was the game against Louth. Now they came very, very, very close, but you don't unfortunately get league points for coming close. No. And we are where we are. We're in a very, very difficult situation. The permutation is quite simple in my view, Jack. Lose on Sunday, and you're head, neck, and heels in a relegation battle that will be very, very hard to win.
Yeah, I think the way the league is planned now, I think you do need to get points this weekend. Obviously, you have Clare and Kildare to come as well, and they're only in a pair of points, and they've played already, so they won't drop more points against each other. So that's the thing with Limerick. They can, if they lose this weekend, they can get to 4. They'll have the head-to-head over Clare and Kildare if they were to lose their games. But the points difference is definitely a major worry after that heavy defeat to Cork, 24 points. But Meath have been hot and cold. They obviously beat Cork in the first round, but they haven't really. They obviously won. They won their second round game as well. I can't remember who it was against, but losing to Louth.
Clare, Jack, they beat Clare in the second round. Like they started off like an express train, but they won in Cork, and it was, if you reflect back on their win against Cork, like it was a day in which the Cork defence opened like the Red Sea and left them in for goals, and that was the difference in the end, because in terms of scoring, I think Cork had more scores than them, but it's goals wins matches. It's an old cliche, and it's true. They struggled to beat Meath in Navan in the second round, but they travelled to Derry in round 3 and really got really overturned, seriously overturned, and then of course they had the home defeat to Louth the last time out, which that sends alarm bells ringing, I think, in the Royal County.
Yeah, so, and they're following a similar trajectory to Limerick, the Cork game aside, that beaten heavily by Derry and losing as well to Louth, 2 or 3 points. So they're going in a similar path. It wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility for Limerick to get an upset win here, but definitely is that, like, at the end of the day, Meath are on 4 points, and Limerick are on 0. So
that's the point I'm making, Jack, that the prize for Meath is, to go to 6, safety practically. Almost definitely safety. So looking at it, 3 games, 3 winnable games. Win your 3 games, you'll have Division 2 football next year. That's simplistic way of putting it. Can Limerick recapture the resilience that they have shown in previous years when their backs were to the wall? And I'll repeat it again: Markovich Park in Sligo in 2019, was it, Jack, or 2020? Ockram in 2021, when they dug out results against the odds. Portlaoise last year. With their backs to the wall, they have responded. But this calls for a huge response. And it's not just a once-off response. It's a 3-off almost. You have to deliver it in 3 games.
A response as well.
It's going to be very, very, very difficult.
A response as well from the public, Matt, to get out and support, this team that has brought us on a brilliant journey over the last 3 or 4 years. That they need support from the stands, because when things aren't going well, that's when you need the crowd to get behind you, and they are at home. It's only their second game at home. Dublin was a bit of a novelty. To be fair, that was a hit and hope really against a team that have won 8 All-Irelands in the last 12 years. But this is a real chance. It'd be brilliant to see a big crowd at the 2 Gaelic grounds. We see the buzz that they give the hurlers, so hopefully that can happen for the footballers. It's definitely a winnable game. it's going to be a difficult game. Meath are the favourites, and for a reason, but it's a winnable game. I think, to be fair, it's only the second time this year in the league that you go into a game with real confidence that you could come away. Obviously, Derry and Dublin were a bridge too far, and as we said, Cork are an improved team this year. So, please God, the Limerick footballers.
Yeah, and I would appeal to the public to turn out in force. The Hurlers are not playing, so there's no counter attraction. The ladies footballers are playing in so far away in the most northerly outpost in Derry. I would appeal to the public to come out and support support the team. Now, Ray Dempsey has changed the team around a bit, but I just sometimes wonder, are some of the changes working? But new manager coming in, trying to put his own stamp on the squad. He sees them in training every week. He knows what they're about. But certainly we need to see something, Jack, that we haven't seen already this year. Now, all right, you can reflect back and then the McGrath Cup and easy win over Waterford and the win against Tipperary and all that sort of thing. But I thought, Jack, looking at the McGrath Cup, and all right, it can be easily dismissed as being just pre-season, but I got the feeling in the McGrath Cup final that I saw signs of Cork very much on an upward trajectory. I saw Limerick, particularly with first games against Derry and Dublin, which you would be expecting very, very little from, that they would be immediately into a struggle. And unfortunately, that's the way it has turned out to be.
Yeah, it has been a struggle, and there has been experimentation, and some of it has worked, and some of it hasn't worked. But you have to try these things, against these quality sides, and it might just click this weekend, and that will be the hope. And as you said, we need to get a good support in the Gaelic grounds to support these lads that have sold for the last few years. If
there's any nugget of consolation, Jack. And this is your history lesson, Jack, for today. I think Limerick and Meath have only met once in the league previously, and that was in 2004 when they played out a draw in the Gaelic grounds. But they met subsequently in the Gaelic grounds in the first round of the All-Ireland qualifiers in 2008.
I was there.
And the scoreline was Limerick 4-12. Meath 4-3 on a night in which Ian Ryan outscored Meath because he got 3 goals and 7 points. Now they avenged it the following year in Portlaoise in round 4 of the qualifiers when they beat Limerick 113-2-9. But our record in the Gaelic grounds, even though it has gone into the bowels of history at this stage, is decent. You count for nothing on Sunday, Jack. What will only count on Sunday is what happens between the white lines after the ball is thrown in. It's a very, very difficult task for Limerick. I'm hopeful, but not confident.
Yeah, just on that game in 2008, I was actually there. I was with my mother. I'd say it was the only game we ever went to together, and I was actually in Portlaoise the following year as well. It was my brother took me up that day. So there was mixed emotions. I remember Ian Ryan vividly scoring 3-7. I'd say he could have been still in school in Askeaton at the time. He was definitely 19. But they were good days, and hopefully someone can channel their inner Ian Ryan this Sunday in Gaelic grounds and bag a few goals, because goals is what Limerick will probably need to get a result in the Gaelic grounds. But this Sunday, 2:00 Gaelic grounds, hopefully Limerick can kickstart their survival effort.
You see, Jack, the thing about it is, we've seen cameos of good performances, like the opening day against Derry. For 50 minutes, Limerick almost matched them, and then we saw that second half performance against Dublin, and we saw, I suppose, a typical Limerick performance dig in RD. are we reading too much into what happened in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last week? You know,
Probably, and look,
something
we
similar
weren't there.
happened in the Munster semi-final in 2019, and it wasn't the end of the world. We saw where we've gone since. So, but having said that, you cannot discount it either.
No, but neither of us were there, so you don't know how good Cork were, or how bad Limerick were, or how much of a mixture either was. So we'll see now this Sunday in the Gaelic rounds in the flesh. There was a lot of positives to take from the Dublin game, so if they can take them into this weekend, there's no reason why they can't beat Meath, and hopefully that's how it will pan out this Sunday.
Jack, the top and bottom line is the same here. There's 3 games left. They're 3 winnable games.
Yeah, but they probably have to be won. Is the only thing. That's their caveat. But at least they know exactly what they have to do. Win their 3 games, and they'll be playing Division 2 again next year, and they'll have a year's experience under their belt, because it's difficult to go into an environment like that, and expect to stay up. But we'll keep on.
There's probably fellas now and people and men and women there screaming at the podcast saying, "Is he off his head?" But well, there's life, there's hope, Jack.
Yeah, and we're eternal optimists here in this podcast, especially when it comes to Limerick football. But I suppose we'll keep on the theme of defeats for the time being, just while we're on it. And it was another loss for the Camogie at the weekend, Matt, losing 2-17 to 1-11 against Antrim. Disappointing result, still without a couple of key players. I know Soph Callan came back, so that's a positive. Caoimhe Costello, there's hopes that she'll be there this weekend, but they're facing into a Waterford side that showed how good they are last year in the championship, showed Limerick exactly how good they are below in Thurles, with a comprehensive win in the All-Ireland quarter-final. And like the footballers, you're just looking for some sort of spark to ignite the Camogie team, but very difficult to see that happening this weekend against Waterford.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult trip for John Lillis and the girls. They travelled to Wexford in the first round, and from the outset, Jack, of this competition, the current league, looking at the Division 1B in which Limerick are in, you would have said that the 2 strong teams were likely to be Waterford and Wexford. Now, Limerick went to Wexford and put up a very, very creditable performance. But Antrim appear to have come out of the woodwork now, and they're certainly in the mix for promotion. But very, very disappointing performance. And I was talking to somebody that was there on my behalf, on Saturday last in McNeville Park, and you just wonder, Jack. They're going to Waterford. Waterford is going to be a much, much bigger test. And Waterford reached the All-Ireland semi-final, as you just said there. Was it the first time in 53 years last year? So the trajectory in Waterford Camogie is upward. They seem to be determined. And where Waterford Camogie is at the moment, they deserve to be in 1A. So they're certainly going the right way about it. I think that John Lillis and his selectors, they will be looking for a performance. They will be looking for a performance now. Sophie O'Callaghan will be back from the start. The hope is that Caoimhe Costello will be back as well. That's going to be a major boost. Of course, Rebecca DeLee is going to be out for the entire league campaign, and we know how she performed in the quarterfinal last year, and that gives you a sense of the loss she is. And it's going to be a difficult afternoon. There's no doubt about it. But were John Lillis to get an encouraging performance, which we hope they will, there are 2 vital games left. And Jack, call a spade a spade. Lose to Waterford, and you're into a relegation battle.
Yeah.
you're into a relegation battle. There's no sugarcoating of that. And it will entail a trip to Down in the penultimate round and a home game in the final round against Offaly. And it could conceivably come down to Limerick and Offaly again, in what would be a de facto relegation battle.
Yeah,
but John Lillis will be looking for improvement, first of all, mainly. He'll be looking for performance against, without question, the standout, the marquee team in the group. And he hope that will carry over and take him into the games against Down and against against Offaly. Crucial games for the future of Limerick Camogie, because were you to slip down to 2A, Jack, you'd effectively be in the third tier.
Yeah, and it wouldn't set you at all for a senior championship if you were going to be in the third grade playing teams of a lesser level. But this weekend alone is going to be very difficult. So as you said, performance will be the key for Limerick. Obviously, the result is what you want, but against a team like Waterford that are on a really high trajectory, it's about putting in a performance. So the best of luck to John Lillis and his side this Saturday, 2:00 in De La Salle against Waterford. One more defeat that we have to look at, Matt, before we finally get
just before you go off Camogie there, the juniors are going to Father McNamara Park in Division 3B in the second round. Now, they played last weekend in Capamore against Antrim. And they were 4 points up at halftime. And unfortunately for David Deedy's side, they failed to score in the second half. And they were beaten by 10 points to 1-5. So if they're to harbour hopes of progressing or looking for promotion or getting to the knockout stages of that group, like they need to win in Father McNamara Park against Clare on Saturday.
Yeah, the best of luck to both Camogie sides this weekend. But as I said, we've one more loss that we have to look at, Matt, and that was last Saturday in Killeedy, as Bruff came up just short against Sarsfields, 19-9 in Killeedy in the All-Ireland Junior B final. You were at it, Matt.
Yeah.
But I suppose the game swung in the first half on one incident, I think, was the overriding. I suppose what I got from the game from people that were there was that it turned on a certain red card, and Bruff still could have won the game. That it was a disappointing one, a tough one to take.
Very, very tough one to take, Jack. As you know, I've been with him during all their games there, and I'm bitterly disappointed for him. Because certainly the type of campaign that they put in, and the type of preparation. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Roger Mulqueen on here, and we got a sense of the level of preparation that was going into this, and the level of passion and enthusiasm that was behind the team. And it all hinged on the red card immediately before halftime, Jack. You're right. And Bruff took in an 8-5 lead at halftime. And Oisin Mulqueen struck a beautiful point after halftime. And they actually went 4 points clear. And, and then in a 90-second spell, in the 35th and 36th minute, Sarsfield's got a scrambled goal inside the goal mouth scramble, and Carol Wade, who was subsequently named the player of the competition, he equalised. And you said to yourself, Bruff now numerically challenged. They've been hit with a thunderbolt. They've gone from 4 points up to level terms. That Sarsfields are going to dig in, and not a bit of a Jack. And the reason why was Bruff absolutely dug deep. Absolutely, I couldn't talk enough about the Bruff defence. Tony Burke at centre half back, the Mulqueens, Niall Brosnan, all Jack. They just dug in, put their bodies on the line, and by the 58th minute, Jack, which is 23 minutes later, Bruff had failed to score, but Sarsfields had only got 2 points. And at that stage, Ross O'Brien May had joined the game. And Jack, he had a bullet of a shot in the 58th minute from a very tight angle. It was a brilliant save by Oisin Cooney. I'm sure it played a big part in Oisin Cooney being named the player of the match. It was a match-saving save now. It was one of those shots that goalkeepers absolutely hate. It was going straight for his corner, straight across him. Very, very difficult to take. Great shot by Ross O'Brien May. Had that gone in, Jack, 14-man Bruff would have been a point ahead.
Yeah.
And, you know, we could have had a different result. And Sarsfield subsequently got a point which more or less sealed the deal. But it's been a wonderful odyssey for Bruff. Absolutely a wonderful campaign, Jack, but it's tempered. You know, it's tempered and it's smeared by the manner in which it ended. I think it was most disappointing. The sending off before halftime was to a second yellow card. I thought the first yellow card was harsh, and it brings into focus this whole thing about the first yellow card, Jack. The first yellow card, you know, once a guy is on a yellow card, if he commits a yellow card offence the second time, referee has no latitude. But it's that first yellow card, and I've seen it over the years, and you've probably seen it as well. That I thought it was a bit harsh, and I haven't the slightest doubt, Jack, but a full Bruff team, I think, would have won the All Ireland. We'd have a different narrative altogether here this morning. But Jack, having said that, full credit to Roger Mulqueen, his backroom team, Morris Hare, John Mulqueen, his brother Billy Elron, Brian Finn. They did a fantastic job, Jack. A fantastic job. Now they can look forward to going forward to junior A hurling next year, but we wonder. I'm sure that the intermediate selectors will be looking at some of them, and some of them would certainly, in my view, be of the standard to step up to intermediate hurling. But that's an issue for Bruff, and it's an issue for another day. But look, heartiest congratulations to Bruff on a wonderful, wonderful All-Ireland series.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be difficult for the first couple of weeks, but to get there is a huge achievement in itself. You'll think of how close you got to actually win All-Ireland, but for Bruff, it'll be just a case of trying to continue, because they're certainly going the right vein. Obviously, the 17s getting the county final, the 19s winning a county, the Premier Intermediate team getting to the Limerick final and losing to the eventual All-Ireland champions. You know, both Bruff senior teams were beaten by the eventual All-Ireland winners. You know, so you have to take solace in that. And as you said, some of them will move on to the intermediate team, and who's to say this one backbone a team getting back into senior, because it's not so long since Bruff were a senior team. So look, commiserations to Roger McQueen. And
look, overall, from apart from the junior Bs, and as you've rightly outlined it there, Jack, 2022 has been a fantastic year for Bruff, and they've taken strides, not strides, Jack, but giant strides in the right direction, and they would appear now to have a pool of players, a very, very, very strong pool of players to draw from, and we will be hearing an awful lot more about them, certainly in 2023, Jack. They will have a say in a lot of things in 2023, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose just one more defeat for us to go through, Matt, and obviously the last night the UL Freshers were beaten fairly comprehensively by NUIG in that Freshers final. They were looking to go back-to-back All-Ireland and league titles like the team last year. Just came up a bit short. There was a good few Limerick representatives in the team. Conor Handley-Clark was in goals. You had Evan O'Leary like corner back. You also had Joe Fitzgerald who won All-Ireland with more in midfield. You had the likes of Liam Dennehy from Glenroe started. Sean O'Neill was on the squad. There was a few more. Gavin Rowe, some Patsy Coffey was involved in the background team. Just wasn't their night. 126 to 12 point losers against Galway. Disappointing way to end the season, but good to see a good few Limerick representatives on the team. They'll be hoping to follow the likes of Adam English and Colin Coughlin, who went from the Fresher straight into the Fitzgibbon and won a Fitzgibbon, and just the hurling in Limerick in UL is flying at the moment. So a shout out to them. But we'll move into the senior hurling, Matt. And
yeah, Jack, but just another caveat to that. They were beaten by UL they were beaten by University of Galway, wasn't it?
Yeah, NUIG, yeah, or University of Galway, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, all these colleges are changing names now that they'd even confuse Einstein at this stage.
Yeah.
But you must remember that I would imagine, now I haven't seen their lineup, but I would imagine that Galway team was backboned by 2 All-Ireland winning Galway minor teams.
Well, I know Gavin Lee was the captain, if he's one of them.
He's one, but there you go. That's that group of players who have been excellent, and we have seen at senior level. I saw ATU against UCC in the Fitzgibbon Cup. They were exclusively Galway. I think University of Galway, about 1 or 2 were exclusively Galway as well. So what you're seeing is that group of minor teams, that those minor teams. Now is the time that they're coming into first year in college, some of them. So
yeah,
that might give an explanation.
Yeah, well, look, it's good. It's good to get to final. You obviously want to win it, but it shows you're going in the right track. But nearly an hour in, Matt, and we're only getting on to the Limerick Hurlers.
We're not used to talking about defeats.
No, that's why I left. That's why I left the win till the end, because I wanted to.
Yeah, so we're going to finish on a high note, Jack.
Yeah, 24 points to 19. It finished in Salt Hill last Sunday between Limerick and Galway. I was at it, and I must say the atmosphere was a strange atmosphere. There was 12,000 there. There was a nice crowd there. It was a lovely day. It was lovely and dry. You had some of the best hurlers in Ireland on the field, but just never really got going. Now, maybe it's a case like Clare the previous week. Limerick just totally overawed their opponents in the first half. It was 14-7 at half time. You could tell from the start there was a couple of players in that kind of mood for Limerick. Kyle Hayes threw over 3 from wing back. Tom Morrissey had 5 from play, was man of the match. Shane O'Brien, Peter Casey got a couple each. Keane Lynch got 3 from play. That Limerick was firing all cylinders, and Galway couldn't really live with them. But Limerick let Galway back into the game. They let Clare back into the game. That game was over. The one against Clare was definitely over. But it's definitely something Limerick can work on. Now, it's probably a good thing that they have something to work on this early in the year, but it's a strange trend from this team that are so used to winning.
It is a strange thing, and I was reflecting on it before coming on, Jack, and they left Cork into it in the second half, having been 8 points up.
Yeah.
And having been outstanding in the first half. As you rightly said, they left Clare back into it. And now they've left Galway into it. But of course, the one heartening thing about it, apart from the Cork game, and they had regrouped against Cork, were it not for that point by Shane Kingston at the very end. They regrouped and closed out the game when they were under a bit of pressure. Maybe, Jack, it might be the worst thing that have happened against Clare and Galway, that they got something of a test.
Yeah.
Because were they to continue and win the game by 12 or 14 points each, you wouldn't have as much from it as if you were tested. And certainly they were tested in that spell when Waterford or Galway hit 6 points in a row. And it'll give John Kiley and his management team absolutely food for thought. And, in many ways, in a quirky way, Jack, they might welcome it. But when Limerick were in full flow, Jack, there's only one word, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you referenced Kyle Hayes there, Jack. Fantastic performance in the first half. Cian Lynch, wonderful to see Cian Lynch back for the last two games, part game against Cork and against Clare. But the real Cian Lynch was in Galway. He's getting there back to his very, very best, But what about Tom Morrissey, Jack? We've spoken, if you go back in this cast a number of times, about the capabilities of Tom Morrissey. Absolutely fantastic. 5 points from play, took over the free-taking duties, and I think apart from one was unerring. And it probably wasn't in the script that he would be, just like the previous week, it wasn't in the script that Micheál Houlihan would be taking the frees. So, Jack, overall, notwithstanding that late blip, as we'd call it, overall it was a day and a performance laced with positivity.
Yeah,
and,
there was
again,
positive.
it shows, Jack, that Limerick, in terms of the league, are much further down the road in terms of their preparation than they were this time 12 months.
Definitely. And you mentioned a couple of lads there.
Limerick have put themselves, Jack, in a very, very strong position of making the league semi-finals. Now, they go to Westmeath on Sunday week, and it's a game that you would be expecting them to win before. They'll host Wexford in a double header at the Gaelic grounds the week after, when Kildare footballers will also be in the Gaelic grounds. So I think they're in a very strong position. I was just looking at the league, Jack. There was a narrative going around after 2 rounds that the semi-finalists from the group would be Cork and. I don't think that's as clear-cut now.
Yeah, it's down to the Clare game, really.
Because I put it to you this way now. Clare have 2 home games, and we know the cauldron that Innes is. And they're home to Galway and home to Clare and home to Cork. Were they to win those 2 games, Clare are virtually certain to be in the semi-final because of the huge scores that they ran up against Westmeath and against Wexford last week. Now, if Limerick win their 2 games, they'll be on 8 points. And if Cork beat Wexford, they'll be on 8 points. Now, Cork may be behind the 8 ball here because of the fact, and again, no disrespect to Westmeath, that they only beat Westmeath by 6 points.
Yeah, and it'll come down to that Clare game.
We have this talk about the league running into the championship. In terms of that, it'd probably be more suitable for Cork to get to the league final than anybody else, for the simple reason that they have a bye in the first round of the Munster Championship, which gives them that extra week.
Yeah.
So
that is
there's going to be a very, very interesting finale to that. But the thing about it is, Jack, Limerick are right in the mix.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Do you think Limerick want to be in the mix? Do you think that was the goal at the start of the year, to be in the mix for a league semi-final place? Because in 2020, they won every game they played. They won league, championship, Munster and All-Ireland. 2021, they kind of stuttered through the league, finished with 5 points, 5 out of 10, halfway. And last year, they couldn't buy a win till they came to Offaly and still won the All-Ireland in all those years. So, do you think, before a ball was thrown in, do you think John Kiley had targeted the league, or how do you think they went about it? Because looking at it, they are going to qualify.
Listening to the Morrissey brothers, Dan and Tom, immediately after the match on the RTE interview, Jack, they were absolutely adamant that Limerick go out to win every game.
Yeah. But do you think that is the from Kiley and Kinnerk's point of view? Obviously, they want players playing well and they want to give lads a chance. But do you think they'd be happy to be in a league final 2 weeks before Waterford in the championship?
They'd be happy to be in a league final, but I'm not so sure that they'd be happy that it's only 2 weeks before the championship.
Yeah, I suppose it's catch-22, but as we said, Limerick are probably in a position to play. I don't think Limerick have an under-strength team, if you get me. I don't think they have players to go out and be under-strength, but you know what I mean, that they could probably play fringe players in a league final and know that they could still possibly and probably win that game. But
I think we'll get a sense of that now with the team selection for the game with Westmeath, Jack.
yeah, Westmeath is going to be a strange one because look, you'll be expecting to come out of that one. Definitely expecting to come out of that with a win. But before we finish up here on Limerick, do you just mention it there? Munster is a bear pit. Like, you have 5 teams that will all be, gunning for a place in the All-Ireland series. I think Waterford haven't got out of the round robin, if I'm right, in the 3 years it's been there. Limerick are out every year, so have Cork, and Clare and twice, and Tip the other time. So Waterford the only team. But if you were to call it, who would you say right now is going to come out of Munster, the 3 teams, in 2 months' time?
Jack, have you any easier question at this hour of the day?
Are you looking for what's your favourite Wolf Tone song?
Do you realise I've been talking for the last hour?
Yeah, I'll leave you with this one now. This could be your final question. But honestly,
Limerick.
I'll give you mine. I think Limerick will reach a Munster final. I think Cork will be top 3. And I'd go between Tip and Waterford and slightly side Waterford to end that way. Now, call me mad if you want to leave out Clare, who got to an All-Ireland finals semi-final last year, and Tip, who won all their league games this year. But for me, it's at the moment Limerick, Cork, Waterford is how I call it.
Tip are going very much in the right direction, Jack.
I know, yeah, I know. And so are Waterford last year.
And I would have tipped on it.
Limerick, Tip, and
Cork.
Yeah, I think Limerick and Cork, they've done it before. They know how to do it. 3 out of 3 says a lot. I think Limerick are the undoubted favourites to get out of there. I think it's Cork, and then take your pick. But neither of us are going for Clare, and I
find it very hard to exclude Clare, Jack. Because on that day, Jack, we possibly, if you ask me that question in about 6 weeks' time, which would be the right time, by the way, for it, not prematurely asking me at this stage, in the aftermath of the league, we might be able to give a more informed answer.
Yeah, but you would have thought last year, after Waterford won the league, that they would be guarantees to finish in the top
Jack,
3.
I was adamant for anyone that listened to me that Waterford wouldn't come out of Munster last year.
Okay, so
after winning the league.
About 60 episodes ago, so it was just over a year ago, around episode 162, for anyone that has the time to go in and fact check that Matt called that Waterford wouldn't get out of Munster after winning. But it's not like it's brilliant for fans to be watching Munster Championship because you have no idea how it's going to go. But it must be a nightmare for management.
Actually, Jack, somebody that I met on the street and asked me the very same question. And I said Waterford wasn't going to come out. He almost attacked me. That I was mad.
I hope you attacked him then when you ran into him again.
He was shocked to call in the guards that I'd lost it.
Well, that's what you would have thought, but that's what Munster does to these teams. But it's just a side point. At the moment, Limerick are going well. You'd imagine they'll be in a league semi-final at the least, the way they're playing. But we all know for Limerick, it's all about championship. It's all about the All-Ireland at the end of the day. But it's good to see them going well. They've already doubled their tally from last year in terms of wins with 2 games to spare. So they're going definitely in the right direction. But before we finish up, Matt, and another death notice, I suppose, the late Dermot Kelly from Clahan passed away and was buried during the week. You were telling me off air about his involvement in the 1955 final, scoring an incredible tally for Limerick, but you will take up the mental there. Obviously, condolences to his family and friends, but a great player on the pitch for Limerick.
Absolutely, Jack. condolences to the Kelly family. And I suppose it's a bit ironic that we're having a similar discussion in 2 out of the last 3 podcasts, because he was only predeceased by 2 weeks by another member of that 1955 team, the late Father Seamus Ryan from Camogie. But Dermot Kelly literally set the hurling world alight in 1955, and as just to reiterate the background of the Munster final of that year, Clare went into that Munster final absolutely unbackable favourites. They had beaten Cork were the All-Ireland champions in 1954. Clare it was, of course, straight knockout in those days. Clare had beaten them by a point in the quarter final, and they'd backed it up by beating Tipperary in the semi-final. Limerick had a goal to spare over Waterford in their semi-final, so came into the final like as total underdogs. And I suppose Clare had a certain level of confidence that they played the final, I think, in the Gaelic grounds.
Yeah.
But it was a day anyway in which Mackey's Greyhounds, as they have been famously dubbed, really upset the odds. One of the great shocks of the time, when they won the game by 2-16 to 6 points. Dermot Kelly, Jack, scored 112. 112 of 2-16 in a 60-minute game. It was just simply absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he later went on to captain Munster. Unfortunately, they were beaten in a Railway Cup final in 1956 by Leinster, but I think he won a couple of Railway Cup medals subsequently. It was a very fallow time for Limerick hurling. Wasn't going very well in those years, right up to I always told you the story about 1960, the first game that I ever saw, and I won't repeat the score again, and I won't go down there. But that was time Limerick hurling was at a very, very low ebb post 55. But Dermot Kelly was a larger than life character, an excellent golfer in later life, former captain of Lahinch and Innis golf clubs, but he was a bank manager by profession, and who loved West Clare and had a propensity to sing a song and write a song. So he became known as the singing bank manager, and he wrote a number of songs of which were very, very popular at the time. Joseph McHugh's Pub, Limerick My Home, The Cliffs of Moher, and all that sort of thing, singing songs about local people and local places. As I said, a larger than life character, and he passed away late last week, and he was laid to rest on Monday in Kilmurray Cemetery, and to his family we extend our deepest sympathy.
Yeah, deepest sympathy and condolences to the family of Dermot Kelly, a true Limerick Gael. An hour and 13 on the clock there, Matt. I think that's a podcast for another week. I suppose if you listen back, it's probably pretty dreary from the time we finish with Graham to the time we get back there. There's a lot of defeat, but there's ups and downs in sport. We've been blessed.
It's not our fault, Jack. We're only reporting, or we're only talking about what unfortunately we saw, because last weekend, Jack, was a sporting weekend from hell for me. Because Everton lost to Aston Villa. What's new there? Bruff Rugby lost to Ballina, and we had all the Limerick losses as well. So I was damn glad that the weekend was over, and that it ended on a very high note. I would have to say, with Limerick's performance in Galway, it overshadowed the rest, Jack.
Yeah, look, there's going to be peaks and troughs, and we've been blessed between hurling, football, Camogie and Ladies Football over the last 3 or 4 years. That it's been wins far more often than not. But these weekends happen. But look, a credit to all the players that go out there and do the job for their county and wear the green.
And Jack, Treaty lost as well.
Yeah, Liverpool drew. Liverpool drew as well. So I was disappointed with that. But hopefully. They won last night, Liverpool, so maybe that's a sign of things to come, that the sport in Limerick
Jack,
and turn its way around.
As an Everton fan, I'd take winning the toss at this stage.
Yeah, look, Liverpool are in the battle for top 4. So they won last night against Wolves 2-0. They're back in the top 6. So I'd compromise that if Liverpool got top 4, I wouldn't mind seeing Everton not get relegated. But it doesn't look good for the other side of Merseyside, the blue side at the moment. But for this weekend, it's certainly focused on Camogie on Saturday, and ladies football on Sunday at 1, and then the men's football at 2. Hopefully next week, Matt, it'll be all wins to look back on. So look, we'll leave you at that. A huge thank you first of all to Graham Shine. He was very generous with his time at the start of the podcast to give us a good 20 minutes. So best luck to Graham and his side as they hope to secure their league semi-final berth in Owen Beg on Sunday. A huge thank you to everyone that tunes in to listen. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, like us on Spotify. You look like you want to say something there before we finish.
I was just something that I would like to mention, Jack. Is that as you know, the Limerick referees have launched a recruitment drive over the last week or so, and like that, there's a dire shortage of referees in the county. Now we have a very hardcore of excellent referees in the county.
Yeah.
And they're recruiting for new men to take up the whistle. I know we'll be talking about it in this podcast maybe next week or the week after, but I would appeal to people out there that are so inclined, to take up refereeing, because it can be a very, very fulfilling job, and like referees can achieve an awful lot. We've seen what Limerick referees have achieved this year alone.
Yeah.
In terms of finals, refereeing the 2 colleges senior finals, Amos Stapleton, Jonathan Hayes, Johnny Murphy refereeing the All-Ireland club finals. Huge games. Eamon Stapleton also refereeing the Munster Senior Hurling League final. Timmy Burke making his debut in refereeing an inter-county senior game. We'll be talking about it in greater depth as you know in the next week or two. But in the meantime, I would appeal to people to give serious consideration to the recruitment drive that's on for referees at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to do it, make it your business to find the relevant people and get out there and help the cause. Because as you said, we have a great cohort of referees in the county, and there'll be no game played without the referees. So we would appeal to you that if you want to be the man in the middle, there's definitely a place for you in Limerick GA. But we'll leave it at that. A huge thank you again to you, Matt, and to everyone listening. Over and out for another week, and we'll be back again next week to talk all about Limerick GA.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into, it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tommaso Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there